feel whole again. There is hope and healing from a reproductive loss. Call the International Helpline, 866-482-LIFE, and talk with someone who has been where you are. Your call is confidential, and we will help you find healing. 866-482-LIFE.
What we believe about the Bible is based on what we believe about its source.
The God Who Speaks, the award-winning documentary from the American Family Association, is now available in a special limited edition DVD set. This release includes a Sunday school curriculum and 2 hours of additional footage. Go to thegodwhospeaks.org to get your copy today. thegodwhospeaks.org. The words you are about to hear are taken from letters sent in by members of the Trinity Debt Management Program.
Dear Trinity, today I'm making my final credit card payment.
Before I came to you, I was in a constant state of anxiety and panic, but now there is hope for my family's financial future.
Working with Trinity made me understand that I'm not alone.
You really do help people.
Your kindness will never be forgotten.
Without Trinity support, I would not have achieved my lifelong goal of becoming debt-free.
We saved a lot on interest and penalties, of course, but the reward was the gift of human kindness.
Trinity has carried me through a very difficult time in my life. You're amazing.
I used to feel so anxious and hopeless. Now I feel grace and peace.
God bless Trinity as you continue to help others become debt-free.
If credit card debt has you down, call Trinity at 1-800-788-1813. That's 1-800-788-1813.
My second son, he turns 4. He's had a night, he's exhausted, he's staggering, he's so tired.
Ken Kington on Focus on the Family Minute.
Like, it's time for bed. I'm not tired, I don't want to stay up, I'm not tired. Like, you're tired, I don't want to go to bed. And it's like, okay, you have a choice. You want to brush your teeth, put on your pajamas and go to bed, or do you want to spank it? And he stood there. Like 3 minutes. I'm like, did you hear me? He goes, after the spanking, can I stay up?
The laughter that children can bring us is priceless and gives a much needed break in life. Hear more from Ken today at FamilyMinute.org.
That's gone unnoticed, and it shouldn't. It's important to understand something that has been happening behind the scenes in digital land. Are you familiar with the Wayback Machine, the Internet Wayback Machine? This has been around a long time. It's the Internet Archive's Wayback Machine. It's been around for, gosh, a decade. And what it does is it takes snapshots of well-trafficked websites, sometimes not even well-trafficked. For instance, I used to use this from time to time for memory's sake. It had some pictures. I was thrilled to know of my internet radio company, which is really, really old. I was just thinking, gosh, is there anything left from that? What did that website look like? And I've got memorabilia from them, but I looked at the Internet Wayback Machine, and wow, it was there. So it was hacked in early October. And this was an email smash and grab. This comes from PJ Media reported on this. And it was hit again on October 20th. And this time they sought and got access to the Zendesk support system, which gave them access to everything. So now it's back, but as a read-only service. So you can search, but you can't capture any existing web pages into the archive. Now this matters because of the Orwell memory holding that's going on. So you're familiar with the George Orwell movie, 1984, based on the book. Well, it's the George Orwell book, the movie adaptation thereof. And to memory hole is to take an historical event, news events, and to cast it away as if it never happened, and to erase it across all forms of public consumption. So there are a whole series of stealth edits that happen from time to time. For instance, this. The American Academy of Pediatrics lockdowns. They removed studies that showed that kids need to see human faces in order to properly develop their ability to have empathy. There's parts of a brain that we call mirrored synapses. And a mirrored synapse response works as you begin to understand human faces. This is an angry human face. This is a doubtful human face. This is a happy human face. This human face doesn't know who you are. And in developing that, of course, then we can feel empathy. We can act with empathy. We can communicate in meaningful ways, sometimes without speaking a word. And the American Academy of Pediatrics had studies that showed how important this was. It was advice to parents. And one of the advice bits that was interesting is if you have family members who don't live near you, get pictures of their faces in multiple forms. Make sure that your kids see a lot of human faces, not just yours. Like one of the challenges if you live remotely is your kids won't learn to interpret the faces of enough people so that their brains can gather enough information so that they can have these mirrored synapses. And people can end up being awkward in that way. And the masks during the COVID lockdowns destroyed that. There's an entire generation of young kids who grew up without active mirrored synapses because at the most crucial time of development of that empathy gene, or there's those empathy synapses, they didn't get the experience of being able to develop empathy. You know what the American Academy of Pediatrics did during the lockdowns? They hid that study. It's gone. Utterly gone. So when things like this occur, and it wasn't just there's this. Barack Obama at one point said, they bring a knife, we bring a gun. That's almost gone. It's almost impossible to find that video. You have an ability now for these huge websites to go and edit the news behind the scenes. And when they're editing the news behind the scenes and not disclosing it, and there's no internet archive, you don't know what's changed. This happened at the same time as Google did away with their service that's called the cache feature, which is very similar to the Wayback Machine. They did away with it at the same time. Now, that's probably coincidence to the hack, but who would target the Internet Wayback Machine? There's no money in that. There's no money in that. Beth just sent me a note on AFR. Todd, be careful. Are you sure that was the American Academy of Pediatrics? I think you're talking about the American Psychological Association. Okay, so let me be clear on that. I will check. I do not want to spread dis or misinformation. So I will check on that. I'm pretty sure it was the American Academy of Pediatrics. I'm speaking from memory, so let me take that lesson and say I will check and make sure. Because God knows I don't want to be the one now going out and need my own Wayback Machine. Thank you, Beth, for the note. You can write to me at thetoddhermanshow.com. On this program, though sometimes it's frustrating and difficult, we do thank the Lord for placing supposedly wise people on tall towers of shaking sand with our feature called the Tower of Babel.
You know about the biblical truth of the Tower of Babel. A Disciples View presents
Who doesn't love a yellow school bus?
Trans women are women, trans men are men, and non-binary people are non-binary.
If the prosecutor's not fired, you're not getting the money.
The Tower of Babbling.
3 soundbites in today's Tower Babbling, almost always 3. Stephen Colbert and one of CNN's pretty young entertainers didn't mean to crack a joke about CNN, but they did.
It's kind of been this moment where he has not been able to coalesce around a single attack line.
I know you guys are objective over there, that you just report the news as it is. Oh, I know. CNN makes it. I know.
Is that supposed to be a laugh line?
I wasn't supposed to be, but I guess it is.
Oh, it is. Oh, it is. And it's Colbert's audience laughing at that. That's good. That's a sign of hope. Second soundbite today's Tower Babbling. People went door to door pretending to be Kamala campaign workers, looking to house illegal immigrants in the homes of Democrats, and listen to their excuses.
I dressed up like I worked for Kamala's campaign. Now I'm gonna deliver immigrants to her supporters. Are you? Of course. We do have a surprise, if that's okay, just real fast. We're looking for a place for them to stay. They just came across. They'll sleep on floors. I mean, they're not picky, you know. They have like a 2-year-old, so Hector's good with kids. We just can't. Could they just like sleep on your lawn? They need a place to stay. They just came across.
My teenagers live with me.
It's funny how when it's your house, the answer is no. What exactly is the difference? Well, it's our house. Wait, but it's our park. It's our sidewalk. It's our government school. It's our country. Weird. They didn't just welcome them in. It's almost like there's a sense of things. Wait a minute, before someone comes into my home, I need to make sure I know who they are. I've got kids. I need to make sure they're safe around my kids. But we don't need to check that when they're coming into our country? Huh, why is that? Last soundbite today's Tower Babbling. Early into election night, MSNBC began seeding the idea that more ballots could be introduced in the middle of the night.
Those early votes in person and those absentee ballots, which my guess is are heavily weighted towards Harris supporters. In Green Bay, they won't report anything until they've counted the absentee ballots and the in-person election day votes. So that means that you're going to see a red mirage where it seems like Trump is doing better than he actually is because they haven't counted and reported those absentee ballots yet. And then the blue shift when those ballots are introduced to add to the totals, that could be in the middle of the night. It certainly was in 2020.
It certainly was in 2020. I wonder if they forgot to print 20 million ballots. I'm just kidding. Kind of, but not really. And that's a wrap for today's Tower Babbling.
That was the Tower of Babbling.
I don't have anything to share with all of you at this time, and I'll just leave it there.
On A Disciples View.
Okay, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do the thing that makes people uncomfortable. I'm gonna make a suggestion. And this makes people uncomfortable. It makes me uncomfortable. This is not fun to discuss. So if you're with young kids, please be careful. There's a purpose to this. I wouldn't be doing it if there wasn't. God help me do this the right way. All right, on a personal note, I had a dear friend named Eric. And he and I were not supposed to be friends. It happened in the strangest possible way. I was riding my bicycle through Eric's neighborhood. I was not a cool kid. There was nothing cool about me. And I happened to ride up to this home. And this guy, Eric, said, he yelled my name, and I stopped the bike and talked to him. He was cool. He had the right jeans, he had the right hair. Even at, I think we met in 4th grade, he looked like a young Jim Morrison, such a good, young, handsome kid. Even when he grew up, anywhere we went, grown women were attracted to him. He just had this unbelievable charisma. He actually graduated high school, married his high school sweetheart. They were together until Eric died very, very early on from Lou Gehrig's disease. He died almost 15 years ago. He was loyal to that woman. He was a good and kind man. He never harmed a person. And he never preyed upon women. girls, even though he could have. So Eric taught me how to be cool, and I gave him access to our home. And he had the only real family life in our home. He told me this. I saw him about 6 months before he died. He and I reconnected, praise God. And I hugged him. I said, thank you for saving me. He goes, I was going to tell you the same thing. I said, you saved me from a life of being bullied. He goes, you saved me from a life with no mom. And we got to embrace. Well, praise God that I got to do that. Here's the uncomfortable part. Okay, Eric wasn't perfect. I wasn't perfect. We didn't have access to the internet because it didn't exist at our age. When he found out suddenly, because this is the way his mom operated, she came to him and said, son, we're moving tomorrow. What? Yeah, I got married, we're moving. Oh. His mom was a dear lady, she matured. I got to meet her before Eric, I got to reconnect with her before Eric died. I was stunned at how young she was. I was a new father, and when I saw her, I was stunned. My goodness, you're not that much older than me. So she announced they're leaving, and Eric had Playboys and penthouses. Okay, I told you this gets uncomfortable, but I have a suggestion for you. He called me and said, I have some things I want to give you because I'm moving and I can't take them with me. You're what? You're moving? Yeah, my mom just told me. Oh my gosh. Where? And we continued the friendship, but it was hard. So I went over to his house and he gave me some records to hide the pornographic magazines. And I brought them back to my house. And my mom found them. And here's how my mom dealt with this. I came home from school, and the magazines were on the kitchen table, open to the centerfold. My mom said, please sit down. I'm not angry with you. Boys are naturally curious, but please sit with me. Son, do you think women like doing this? No. I read some of the letters in here. Do you think this is the way sex really is? No. Well, it's not. She closed the magazines and gave them back to me and walked away. I didn't sit there very long before I tossed them in the fireplace and burned them. Just a suggestion, in this porn-washed society, asking smart questions of your sons and daughters. Do you think people really like doing that? In the beginning was the Word was with God, and the Word was God. Because we believe, we speak. Because He first loved us, we speak His Word. We walk in the path of Jesus to make disciples of all nations until we all speak again. May the peace of God that surpasses all understanding rest upon you and your families. On behalf of Randy and AFR, I'm Todd Herman. This has been A Disciple's View.
The views and opinions expressed in this broadcast may not necessarily reflect those of the American Family Association or American Family Radio.
90.5 KTXG, Greenville, Dallas.
It was a man that was full of life.
Bert Harper of Exploring the Word.
He loved the Word of God, and it came across in the classroom. Dr. Travis put in my heart the desire to know God through His Word. And that's what we're trying to do on Exploring the Word.
Exploring the Word, weekday afternoons at 3 Central on American Family Radio. This is American Family Radio, a listener-supported ministry of the American Family Association.
American Family News, I'm Robert Thornton.
A conservative activist and former presidential candidate says it is by the hand of God Donald Trump and the Republican Party are victorious in 2024. Here's AFN's Chad Groening.
It was a resounding victory for Donald Trump and the MAGA movement, as the American people rejected the extreme policies that Vice President Kamala Harris and President Joe Biden have imposed the past 4 years. Gary Bauer, who is chairman of the Campaign for Working Families, believes the hand of God was clearly on Donald Trump during this election cycle.
Donald Trump dodged a bullet in Pennsylvania some months ago, and we believed he was able to dodge that bullet because of the hand of God. I think America dodged a bullet last night. If this election had gone the other way, many of us believe that freedom of speech, freedom of religion, every basic right we have would have been in jeopardy.
And Bauer says the left made it clear what they intended to do.
They were going to stuff the Supreme Court. They were going to end extended debate in the Senate. They were going to add the District of Columbia and probably a couple of other places as states. They were going to nationalize elections. We would have elected the most pro-abortion president in the history of the country. It would have been a disaster. So for the second time, God, because of the votes of Christians and the prayers of Christians, has given us another chance to make America great again by making America one nation under God again.
I'm Chad Groening.
Vice President Kamala Harris is to address supporters at 4 p.m. Eastern today. NBC News reports Harris did not speak last night as election results were coming in and the race had not yet been decided. And NBC News had this to say about Donald Trump, quote, the most polarizing figure in modern American politics. Trump now must preside over a nation deeply riven by social, racial, cultural, and economic hostilities that he has strategically exploited on the campaign trail for nearly a decade. It was, for him, a successful strategy. The last time a defeated U.S. president avenged his loss was Grover Cleveland in 1892. Frank Pavone of Priests for Life appeared on Jenna Ellis in the Morning and had this to say about Donald Trump's victory.
I am playing Stars and Stripes Forever on repeat, and that's what I do on mornings like this. So grateful to people like you and countless friends of both, mutual friends that we both have, colleagues, people on every level of our society that have worked so hard.
He also addressed the Florida abortion initiative failing last night.
Governor DeSantis deserves so much credit for this victory, and he really, the pro-life forces in Florida are strong, but he really rallied the troops, gave everyone even more courage to be forthright and clear on this, gave us so many opportunities to bring so many truths to the public about how harmful Amendment 4 would have been.
He went on to say the freedom of assembly and religion will be protected by Donald Trump. Yahoo News reports Google searches for how to move to Canada were on the rise yesterday, with a 400% day-to-day increase by 8 p.m., according to Google Trends. In 2016, when Donald Trump was first elected U.S. president, a surge in search traffic caused Canada's immigration website to crash. Members of the left in the past have been vocal about leaving the U.S. should Trump win the presidency. The National Hurricane Center is monitoring Hurricane Rafael, which is to make landfall in western Cuba today and then head into the Gulf of Mexico. Fox Weather's Britta Merwin.
So reality and truth will show itself when it comes to the track, but the important thing is that every computer model agrees this is a weakening system, and no computer model shows significant impacts for the northern Gulf. They do, however, show that today is going to be a rough weather day in southwest Florida. We have a tornado risk.
The National Hurricane Center says the storm will weaken once again and be a tropical storm over the weekend as it lingers in the west central Gulf of Mexico. That's all our time for now. You can always see more news at afn.net. I'm Robert Thornton.
Hi, it's Sandy Rios, your old friend from the morning show. So many crucial and frightening events are unfolding before our eyes. I'd like to invite you to come over to the podcast, Sandy Rios 24/7, so that we can work our way through these difficult times together. AFR.net, any podcast platform, or at sandyrios.com. And one more thing, my book, God's Velvet Hammer, is now available on Audible. So come join us at Sandy Rios 24/7, and remember, God's Velvet Hammer, available at Audible.
reform.
Religious freedom is about people of faith being able to live out their faith, live out their convictions, no matter where they are.
We quit.
Sacred honor is the courage to speak truth, to live out your free speech.
We also rejoice in our sufferings because we know that suffering produces perseverance, character, and character hope.
This is At the Core on American Family Radio.
Welcome to The Core here on American Family Radio. Walker Wildman here with you on this live edition of the program. Election Day has come and gone. Today is November 6th, 2024. We are under 24 hours after the closing of the polls and the election results of yesterday evening. Technically, early this morning, we were with you for nearly 7 hours yesterday. Began at 6 p.m. Central. We were here till midnight 30. And early this morning, we left and got 4 or 5 hours of sleep. But I can't complain because President Trump's going on his 4th day of no sleep, which is actually unhealthy. So I would recommend he get some sleep for the sake of his own good. But yeah, President Trump's been up 24/7 for the last 3 going on 4 days. Pretty astonishing. With the final days of the election now come and gone. Well, we're going to give you an update on where we are across the board. And we're going to have Dr. Jameson Taylor on in the next segment to talk about our path forward. But we've just got a lot of information to break down, a lot of analysis, and a lot of opinion. And let me just tell you, I am fired up. And I'm not fired up in a bombastic, celebratory manner. I'm fired up in a manner that is like, we've got an opportunity, we've got a window of opportunity over the next 24 months to really get things done. And so we need to be moving day in, day out to completely destroy the bureaucracy, the overreach, the abuse, the bloated government. I mean, everything that is wrong with Washington, D.C. needs to be completely obliterated in the next 24 months. And I mean no